and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 battle report brought to you by the Legion Wargaming. And Commander Eli is pleased with the way his campaign is progressing against the Imperium. The Tau commander has already defeated the best forces the Imperium can throw at him in open battle, and he has driven all Imperial forces from the primary continental landmass of this planet. But today he is faced with a problem. Some of the hunter contingents he has sent to occupy the western areas of this continent have gone silent. They have disappeared. So the veteran Tau commander has personally led a force to investigate. He wants no delays. He does not want to let up the pressure he is putting on the Imperial forces. But on arriving in this area, he immediately recognises what has happened to his forces. The Tau have disturbed a previously dormant nest of the alien beasts known as Tyranids, and they have been consumed. Immediately, filled with wrath, Commander Eli orders an attack to cleanse the Tyranids from this part of the planet and to regain control. The battle today is 2,000 points. It is cleanse and control with Dawn of War deployment, and the Tau who will be deploying at this near table edge have already placed their objectives near to their baseline. Objectives 1, 3 and 5 are all the way back behind defensive lines. The Tau want to hose the Tyranids with their formidable firepower. The Tyranids, on the other hand, who will be deploying at the far side of the battlefield, they have deployed their objectives slightly more aggressively. Objectives 2, 4 right in the centre, and perhaps planning an attack on this flank. Objective 6 forwards towards the Tau positions. This is the first time the Tau have encountered the Tyranids on this planet and on this channel, and we are looking forward to seeing what happens. Let's take a look at what forces Commander Eli has brought with him to eradicate the Tyranids of Hive Fleet Kraken. This 2,000 point Tau army is a combined arms detachment and a firebase support cadre formation. The combined arms detachment is led by Commander Eli himself with his 2 marker drones, and he has brought with him 2 teams each of 12 fire warriors with pulse rifles. They each have a Devilfish transport with twin link smart missile systems, and he has also brought 2 crisis teams, each of 3 XV8 suits, and each suit has 2 plasma rifles and a fusion blaster. And Commander Eli has also filled all 3 of his fast attack slots. He has bought the experimental XV-109 Yavara battlesuit, a squadron of 3 Remora stealth drones, and a Pathfinder team with 8 Pathfinders. As well as the combined arms attachment, this Tau army has a firebase support cadre. 2 teams, each of 2 XV-88 broadsides. They have high yield missile pods and smart missile systems, and each team has brought along 2 missile drones as well, and an XV-104 Riptide with 9 accelerator and twin linked fusion blasters. And every battle suit in this cadre has a counterfire defence system. We're looking forward to seeing if they combine their fire with Monster Hunter, how effective they are against the Tyranid monstrous creatures that will doubtless be present in this battle. This is quite a sizable army and has a lot of effective firepower. Let's see what the Tyranids of Hive Fleet Kraken have brought along. This 2,000 point Tyranid army is a combined arms attachment and is led by a flying hive tyrant, and he has 2 sets of twin link devourers with brain leech worms. There is another HQ slot filled by a Tervigon with adrenal glands and shredder shard beetles, and one of the troops choices has an identical Tervigon who can be taken as troops because in the other slot there is a scuttling swarm of 30 gaunts. They just have flesh borers. There's a single Elite's choice, a single zone throat, just for some extra warp charges, and this detachment has filled all 3 fast attack slots. We have a hive crone and 2 broods of 6 raveners. They are fully upgraded with rending claws and death spitters and are very, very dangerous. And like fast attack, all 3 heavy support slots have also been filled. A brood of 3 biovores, a Morlock and a Trigon Prime. So this combined arms detachment has a nice mix of small bugs, mid-sized bugs and the big monsters. Let's see how the Tyranids of High Fleet Kraken deploy to cope with Commander Eli's Tau. And the armies have deployed with the Tau adopting a fairly traditional battle line. They have anchored their right flank with the fire-based support cadre. With all that firepower combined with Monster Hunter, this is a very formidable fire base that will make the Tyranid monstrous creatures very nervous. Moving along past the broadsides, we have one team of 12 fire warriors in their devilfish, and with a great view across the centre of the battlefield, the Pathfinders have settled on objective 3 behind the barricades. To their left is another team of 12 fire warriors in a devilfish, and Commander Eli himself. He cannot wait to have a crack at the Tyranids with his experimental ammunition. He is backed up by the XV-109, and he has sent his 2 crisis teams to take this high ground on his left flank. They are on objective 1 and they can move forward from there, but they actually have a fantastic field of fire already, although range might be a problem. In reserve, the Tau have their squadron of Remora stealth drones, but they have formed a very formidable line. The Tyranids, on the other hand, have tried to hide as much of their swarm as possible. The Biovores and the Zoanthrope are completely out of the Tau's line of sight behind this raised defence line, and a brood of Raveners are crawling all over each other in that gully overlooked by a Turvigon. He is obviously not scared. He is standing proud on top of that bunker, and they are both in a good position to contest or seize objective 2. The majority of the Tau forces have deployed on their left, with one Turvigon surrounded by his scuttling swarm of Gaunts, and the other brood of Raveners on the Tyranid far left, looking to move forward as quickly as possible over objective 6, more importantly perhaps take cover from the awesome Tau firepower whilst closing the distance as quickly as possible. The Tyranids don't appear to have a lot deployed on the battlefield, and that's because they have left the Morlock, the Trigon Prime, the Hive Tyrant and the Hive Crone in reserve, because the Tau have deployed first and they don't want to lose those very valuable monsters too early on to the formidable Tau firepower. So, unless the Tyranids can seize the initiative, we will be going into Tau turn 1. The Tyranids have failed to seize the initiative, and at the start of Tau turn 1, the objectives they have drawn are Blood and Guts, Hungry for Glory and Scour the Skies. We know Commander Eli is quite aggressive sometimes, but that set of objectives are really not ideal for the Tau. We think they'd best concentrate on achieving First Blood. Going into Tau turn 1 movement phase. End of Tau movement phase turn 1, and with no particular objectives on the battlefield to secure, most of the Tau line has remained stationary, with the exception of the XV8 crisis teams, who have jet-packed forwards on the left flank, but only a couple of these battlesuits can get the Raveners into range with their plasma rifles, so a couple of long-range pot shots is the best they're going to be able to do. Commander Eli and his drones are going to begin to target the Turvigon in the open if he's in range, but a lot of the Tyranids are hidden or out of range. Pathfinders, unfortunately, are out of range of the Turvigon that would make the ideal target for the Firebase support cadre. But seeing this, the Broadsides and the Riptide have decided that their best chance of wiping out a unit is to target the Raveners on the Tyranids far left. Let's see how they get on going into Tau shooting phase turn 1. End of Tau shooting phase turn 1, and it was a big disappointment. The Riptide followed up on damaging himself with his Nova reactor in the movement phase by missing the Raveners with his ion accelerator by a long way. At least the Broadside teams opened up, and with their high yield missile pods they managed to blow one Ravener behind the barricades to pieces. The Pathfinders in the centre managed to land 4 Markolites on the Turvigon on top of that bunker, but the only unit in range to take advantage of it was Commander Rely. At least he followed up by wounding the beast with a hyperdensity Sabot round. And the bad news for the Tau continued. On their left flank, the 2 crisis suits that were in range of the Raveners in that central gully managed to do a couple of wounds, but the Raveners made their cover saves. So, very disappointing first turn from the Tau, although in fairness the Tyranids have done a very good job at hiding their swarm. We have a few jetpack units. Let's see where they go in the assault phase. End of Tau assault phase turn 1, and Commander Rely has jetpacked over towards the centre to be replaced behind these barricades by an XV8 crisis team. The other team has just adjusted slightly to try and bring more of their weaponry into range for future turns, and the 109 Yavara is moving up to give them some support. But at the end of Tau turn 1 they haven't achieved any objectives, although their draw was incredibly unlucky. They are discarding Hungry for Glory. Never ideal against Tyranids, even less ideal for a Tau commander. Let's see what the Tyranids do going into Tyranids turn 1. Start of Tyranids turn 1, and if the objectives were not kind to the Tau, they were not much kinder to the Tyranids. They have drawn Blood and Guts, not too bad but not ideal in the first turn, and they have drawn Secure Objective 1 twice, unlikely to achieve that. Let's see what they can achieve going into Tyranids turn 1 movement phase. End of Tyranid turn 1 movement phase, and sensing the hesitancy in the Tau's opening volley, the Tyranid swarm has come surging forwards. The Raveners on their far left are moving through the barricades. They are slithering as fast as they can, and the brood of 30 Gaunts are moving up, followed by their Turvigon, who has just produced another brood of 13, but unfortunately for the Tyranids he has run out. The Raveners have come slithering out of their gully near objective 2. They are very fast. Maybe they are looking to light up Commander Rely with their Death Spitters. And they are supported by a newly spawned brood of 11 Gaunts, spawned by this Turvigon, who, like the other, has also run out. On the Tyranid right, the Zoanthrope and the Biovores have not moved. The Biovores are preparing to blindly lob spore mines towards the Tau. But first, we have a Psychic phase. Tyranid Psychic phase, turn 1. End of Tyranid Psychic phase, turn 1, and the Turvigons successfully manifested a power each. The central Turvigon has put Onslaught onto this brood of Raveners, allowing them to run, then fire their Death Spitters, and over on the left flank this Turvigon has put Catalyst on himself and the other brood of Raveners. The Tau tried to deny both powers but were unsuccessful, not being used to psychic things. Let's see what the Tyranids do in their first shooting phase. End of Tyranid, shooting phase turn 1, and the plan of the hive mind became clear as the central brood of Raveners slithered up behind these Aegis defence lines and opened fire on the Pathfinders with their Death Spitters. They melted all 4 Pathfinders in range and grinned their big toothy grins as the other 4 turned tail and ran from the field of battle. It was just as well the Raveners managed that, as the Biovores had previously attempted to drop a barrage on the Pathfinders, but it scattered wildly off the table. All of the Gaunts and the Tervigons have run forwards at various different speeds, but they are closing the gap, and on the far left the other brood of Raveners managed to do a couple of wounds on the broadsides with their Death Spitters, but the mighty battle suits proved resistant. So the Tyranids have managed to achieve first blood with the death of the Pathfinders, and it's been a fairly good turn for them given the terrible draw of objectives. Let's see what the Tau can do in their second turn. Start of Tau turn 2, and having discarded Hungry for Glory, they have been rewarded with a much more suitable objective. They have drawn Big Game Hunter, but they still have Scour the Skies from turn 1, and they also have Blood and Guts, so still not ideal objectives for the Tau, and now First Blood is out of reach for them. More bad news, the Remora stealth drones have not turned up, but let's see what the Tau can do in Tau turn 2 movement phase. End of Tau movement phase turn 2, and freed from the need to actually secure any of the objectives on the table, the Tau are free to concentrate on destroying as much of the approaching Tyranid swarm as they can. Commander Rely has ordered all of his crisis battle suits to move up strongly on his left flank. They are preparing to unleash their fearsome weaponry into the Tyranids in the centre. Meanwhile, the XV-109, pausing to nova charge its ionic disruptor, has, with a mighty bounding leap, leapt onto the roof of this bunker and is preparing to unleash his awesome weaponry. Rely himself has moved up, and he is followed by the Devilfish, which has just disembarked a strike team into the cover of these barricades. In the centre, following Snake Eyes for their move through cover roll, this strike team who have disembarked from their Devilfish are going to have to run if they want to get into the barricades and hold objective 3. And the Firebase support cadre has all held position. They're going to combine their fire to get Monster Hunter, and they are going to try to take out one of the Tervigons. Aggressive moves from the Tau. Let's see if it pays off in their second shooting phase. End of Tau shooting phase turn 2, and their combined fire has been very successful. The central Tervigon is no more. Commander Rely lit it up with his 2 marker drones, and then the Firebase support cadre unleashed an absolute barrage of missiles which took the beast out. Its synaptic backlash took out 5 Gaunts, and that freed up the XV-109, both crisis teams and the newly disembarked Fire Warriors to target the Raveners with a hail of fire. It took out 4 of them. Unfortunately for both the Gaunts and the Raveners, they were just out of synapse range of the other Tervigon, and they have both decided to scuttle away. So, a good phase for the Tau. They concentrated their fire very well. Let's see where the battle suits jetpack off to in the assault phase. End of Tau assault phase turn 2, and now that they have hammered the centre of the swarm, the battle suits are moving in to put pressure on the remaining Tyranids on the far side of the field. They have formed a wall. It's going to be hard for the Tyranids to overcome that. With no assaults, that brings Tau turn 2 to a close. They managed to get a point for Big Game Hunter when they slew the Turvigon, bringing the score to 1 victory point to the Tau and 1 victory point to the Tyranids, going into Tyranids Turn 2. Start of Tyranids Turn 2, and they are happy to carry over all of the objectives that they had in their first turn. So they still have Blood and Guts, always a favourite for the Tyranids, and they have also kept secure Objective 1 twice. With some reserves to roll for, a Morlock and a Trygon Prime could be turning up. Have the Tau made a tactical error in leaving Objective 1 unprotected? Let's see, going into Tyranids Turn 2, movement phase. End of Tyranid Turn 2 movement phase, and unfortunately for the Tyranids, the Trygon Prime and the Hive Crone have both failed to arrive, but they have managed to send the Morlock to pop up and seize Objective 1 twice, earning 2 very valuable points for the Tyranids. They've also been bolstered by the arrival of the Flying Hive Tyrant, and he has directed the Swarm to press home their attack on this flank. The Raveners are closing in on the Riptide. Will their Rending Claws be able to get the job done? We'll see. And the Turvigon and his sea of gaunts are continuing to try and close the distance. Maybe a hail of flesh borers can do some damage to the battle suits. The gaunts in the centre, still out of Synapse range, they continue to fall back, but the 2 remaining Raveners, despite being out of Synapse, have rallied, although they are against a pretty daunting opposition. And back on the Tyranids' far right flank, the Zoanthrope and the Biovores have held position now that the Fire Warriors have popped out of their Devilfish. Maybe there will be some good targets for the Tyranid artillery. But first, we go into Tyranid Psychic Phase Turn 2. End of Tyranid Psychic Phase Turn 2, and it opened with the Turvigon attempting to cast Catalyst on himself and the Flying Hive Tyrant, but he failed with Snake Eyes. The Hive Tyrant decided that he would do it himself, but unbelievably the Tau managed to deny it. Unfortunately, that left them with no dice, and they could not stop the Hive Tyrant pinning the central team of broadsides with the Horror. So, a relatively quick psychic phase from the Tyranids. Let's see if they can achieve a bit more in their shooting phase. End of Tyranid shooting phase Turn 2, and the Biovores once again were very inaccurate. They tried to land their spore mines on top of this strike team, but they scattered off and had no effect. The recently regrouped Raveners tried to target the XV-109 with their Death Spitters, but unsurprisingly did no damage. But much better news over on the Tyranid left flank. The 9 Gaunts that were in range of the central broadside team, they managed to shoot down 1 drone and wound a broadside battlesuit, and then the Flying Hive Tyrant opened up with its twin-linked Devourers and managed to kill another drone and finish off the wounded suit. The remaining member of this central team is still pinned, so he will not be firing in support of the Riptide, which is about to face the charge of the Raveners. But first the Raveners open up and manage to do a wound with their Death Spitters. So the attack on the Tyranid left flank appears to be going well at the moment. Let's see if the Raveners can take down the Riptide in Tyranid Assault Phase Turn 2. End of Tyranid Assault Phase Turn 2, and the Raveners came slithering down from the bunker and tore into the Riptide with their Rending Claws. They did an absolute bucket load of rending wounds. The Riptide only managed to do 1 wound to a Ravener with his Iron Accelerator on Overwatch, despite his counterfire defence system. The central broadside was unable to offer supporting fire because he was pinned by the Horror, and the other broadside team were just out of range. So the Riptide is down and that is a great result for the Tyranids. Overall, this has been a good turn. The Tyranids have got a point for blood and guts, thanks to the Raveners killing the Riptide, and the Morlock, although he may not seem to have made much of a contribution, he has secured objective 1 twice. So, at the end of Tyranid turn 2, the score is 4 points to the Tyranids, only 1 to the Tau. Let's see how the Tau respond going into Tau turn 3. Start of Tau turn 3, and they have kept Scour the Skies waiting for the arrival of the Winged Hive Tyrant. So they're going to see if they can achieve that, and it seems they have finally been ordered to start securing the battlefield itself. They have also drawn secure objective 5, which the broadsides are currently holding, and ascendancy. Surely they should be able to pick up D3 points for that. And more good news for the forces of the Tau Empire. The Remora stealth drones are zipping their way towards the battlefield. But the Tau do have to be careful. There is a spore mine that was deposited by the biovores. Will they deal with it? Will they ignore it? Let's see. Going into Tau, turn 3, movement phase. End of Tau, movement phase, turn 3, and their strategy remains unchanged. They are continuing to hem the Tyranids in, and they are going to try to decapitate this swarm by targeting the large synapse creatures. So the XV-109 has once again leapt onto the roof of this bunker. He's holding an objective, and he is going to finish off the 2 Raveners. The 2 crisis teams are closing in. They are going to see if they can take down the remaining Tervigon. And Commander Eli is going to attempt to light up the Flying Hive Tyrant for the broadside team that can still fire. The 1 remaining broadside suit from the central team, he's pinned, and the Raveners are there. Things are looking quite grim for him, but over the top of the Raveners come flying the Remora drones, and they have been tasked with eliminating the Flying Hive Tyrant as well. Meanwhile, the Fire Warriors at the back have taken up firing positions behind these barricades. They are securing objective 3, and these Fire Warriors have remained behind this defensive position. They are going to try to start pulse rifling their way through these huge broods of gaunts. So the Tau, they have objective 5, and they also have D3 points for ascendancy. They're holding 3 objectives, so it's a good turn so far for the Tau in terms of points. Let's see if they can cap it off by getting Scour the Skies and Slay the Warlord in their 3rd shooting phase. End of Tau shooting phase turn 3, and with its ionic discharge cannon, the XV-109 easily managed to blast the last 2 Raveners to pieces. The XV-8 teams targeted Tervigon. They managed to do 3 wounds with some accurate long-range fire, and meanwhile the Devilfish and the Fire Warriors, ignoring the threats to their rear, have concentrated their fire and wiped 18 gaunts, leaving a big hole in the Tyranid centre. Commander Eli unsuccessfully targeted the Hive Tyrant. He got no hits with his gun or his drones, but the Remora drones fared better. They managed to do a wound to the Flying Hive Tyrant, and crucially light it up with 2 marker lights, which were used by the broadsides to do 2 more wounds. The Hive Tyrant was quite lucky, could have easily lost his last wound if he hadn't made so many 3-up saves. So a mixed phase for the Tau. They certainly are sweeping vast swathes of Tyranids from the table, and this turn they have also managed to rack up quite a few objectives. But first, let's see what the Jetpackers get up to in the assault phase. End of Tau assault phase, turn 3, and it seems that the Tau are adopting the strategy of moving up, striking, and then moving back to form a wall of battle suits. Rely and the crisis suits have formed an impressive firing line. The 109 has decided that he is big and powerful enough to stay standing on the roof of that bunker. He has not jetpacked this turn. With no assaults, that brings Tau turn 3 to a close, and they managed to get a point for securing objective 5, and they also managed to get ascendancy, but unfortunately for them they only got 1 point for that, and they secured objectives 5 and 3 and 2 on the top of the bunker. They could have easily secured the central objective with the XV8s as well. So disappointing for the Tau, and it brings a score at the end of Tau turn 3 to 4 points to the Tyranids, still only 3 to the Tau. Let's see what the Tyranids can do in their third turn. Start of Tyranids turn 3, and they have drawn secure objective 4 right in the centre of the battlefield. They have also drawn domination, which is going to be next to impossible for them, and their final objective is Kingslayer. Unfortunately for them, it looks like Commander Rely is very well protected at the current time, but the Tyranids are being reinforced. The Trigon, Prime and the Hive Crone are both arriving from reserves. Let's see. Tyranids turn 3 movement phase. End of Tyranid turn 3 movement phase, and the Hive Mind has decided that the best use for the Morlock is to pop up and consume people from below, so he has gone back into ongoing reserve, and the other Tyranid monsters have arrived. The Trigon Prime has popped up right on target, and he is preparing to unleash his bioelectric pulse against some fire warriors. Meanwhile, in his shadow, the lone Spore Mine is creeping towards this strike team. The Hive Crone has arrived. He has vector struck the XV109, managing to do a wound, and he is preparing to unleash his dual cannon over these fire warriors as well. Meanwhile, as usual, the Zone Thrope and the Biovores, all the way behind the defended ridgeline, have held position. Let's hope the Biovores can be slightly more accurate in their fire. In the centre, the spawned brood of Gaunts has been sent, probably to sacrifice themselves, but more importantly to get a point for holding objective 4, and the Tyranids continue to put a lot of pressure on the Tau right flank. The Flying Hive Tyrant and the Raveners are moving to wipe out the rest of the Firebase support cadre. They are supported by the remnants of the big brood of Gaunts and the Tervigon himself. The Tyranids are ignoring the stealth drones. At the moment they want to try and start taking down the Tau baseline. So the Tyranids appear to have trapped the Tau in a pincer. Let's see if they can do enough damage to make that a worthwhile strategy. But first, we go into Tyranid turn 3 psychic phase. End of Tyranid psychic phase turn 3, and the Flying Hive Tyrant used all of the warp charges first to give catalyst to himself and the Raveners, and second to unleash the horror once again, which has pinned the full strength broadside team. So no overwatch from them, and looks like the Raveners are closing in. But first we have Tyranid shooting phase turn 3. End of Tyranid shooting phase turn 3, and the Biovores were once again very, very inaccurate. They targeted the strike team all the way back on the Tau's baseline, but their Spore Mine scattered off the table. The newly arrived Trigon Prime managed to inflict 5 wounds on the same strike team, but they made all 5 of their armour saves. The Hive Crone managed to melt 4 fire warriors holding these barricades with his dual cannon, but overall casualties on this side of the battlefield for the Tau have been very light. The brood of Gaunts in the centre had to run just to make sure that they were holding objective 4, but there was a bit more success from the Tyranids on this flank. The Hive Tyrant opened up with his twin-link Devourers and took down the last broadside from the central team, and the Raveners, in preparation for their charge, managed to inflict a wound with their Death Spitters. The Gaunts fired at the same broadside team with no effect, but one of the missile drones was taken down by the Stinger salvo from the Tervigon. So, relatively light casualties, but this Tyranid army is certainly not known for its long range firepower. It is known for its ferocity in close assault, and let's see if that reputation is well deserved going into Tyranid Turn 3 Assault Phase. End of Tyranid Assault Phase Turn 3, and as the Spore Mine floated up towards the strike team behind these barricades, they easily shot it down with their pulse rifles on overwatch. But over on the Tau right flank, they are being overrun. The Raveners, despite taking 2 wounds on overwatch, 1 from the supporting fire from this strike team and 1 from the supporting fire from this crisis team, who are both within 6 inches of the broadsides, they managed to tear the broadsides to pieces. So the entire firebase support cadre has been wiped out, and it looks like the Tau are under a lot of pressure, but the Tau also still have a lot of firepower. This turn, in terms of objectives, the Tyranids have failed to achieve domination. They have failed to achieve Kingslayer, but they did manage to get 1 point for securing objective 4, bringing the score at the end of Tyranid Turn 3 to 5 points to the Tyranids and 3 to the Tau. Going into Tau Turn 4. Start of Tau Turn 4, and they are clearly worried about the threat that the Tyranids are posing to their right flank, so they have been ordered to retake objective 5. They have also drawn supremacy, which may be a little tricky for them. The Tyranids are currently holding 3 objectives, the Tau only 2. But you never know, and they have once again held on to scour the skies. They are determined that the Winged Hive Tyrant is going down. Let's see what they do in their 4th movement phase. End of Tau movement phase Turn 4, and they are going all out to achieve all of their objectives. This turn, with a mighty crash, the XV-109 has leapt all the way from the roof of that bunker and landed with its guns trained on the Raveners. The Tau are sick of these very fast Tyranid creatures with their rending claws. They want them wiped out. Meanwhile, Rely and a single crisis team have moved over to get the badly wounded Flying Hive Tyrant into their sights. They want him dead. The other crisis team has been tasked with driving this brood of gaunts off of objective 4 and taking it. If this brood of gaunts goes down and the Raveners, then the Tyranids will only be holding 1 objective, and the Tau will be able to achieve supremacy. Meanwhile, the Remora stealth drones have peeled round, and they are going to continue hunting flyers. They want to shoot down the Hive Crone. The Fire Warriors and the Devilfish have all held position. They are ordered to add their fire where necessary, possibly this team to help drive the gaunts off of objective 4 so that it can be seized by the crisis team, and this team may need to add their firepower to take out the Raveners and the Hive Tyrant. We will see. Let's see how the Tau get on in Tau shooting phase Turn 4. End of Tau shooting phase Turn 4, and the XV-109 Yavara has proven how deadly it is. Unloading its weaponry into the Raveners, they didn't stand a chance. They were all blown to pieces or melted with its phased plasma flamer. Rely managed to miss with all of his attempts to knock down the Winged Hive Tyrant, but the crisis team came to the rescue and with a single fusion blaster hit managed to knock the Tyranid commander out of the air. So the Tau have very effectively dealt with the threat to their right flank. They have wiped it out. The Remoras strafed in low towards the Hive Crone. They got lots and lots of hits, but terrible to wound rolls meant that the Hive Crone only lost 2 wounds. With supporting fire from the Devilfish and the strike team, this team of XV-8 crisis suits has managed to drive the brood of gaunts back off of objective 4. Unbelievably, they have passed morale, but The crisis suits are already within 3 inches. The gaunts are not. And of course the crisis suits will get to move in the assault phase as well. The only really disappointing firing from the Tau was this strike team, which unloaded a full rapid fire volley into the Trigon Prime, but failed to do a single wound. Still, the Tau in one shooting phase looked to have really turned this game on its head. Let's see where the jetpack battlesuits move off to in the assault phase. End of Tau turn for assault phase, and the battlesuits have just shuffled around with their jetpack moves. None of them really rolled high enough to go very far, but this has been an excellent turn for the Tau. They have achieved Scour the Skies for a point and Slay the Warlord, as the Winged Hive Tyrant was the Tyranids Warlord. They have also managed to secure Objective 5 with the XV-109, and crucially they have managed to achieve supremacy. They are holding Objectives 5 and 3 and 4 in the centre. The Tyranids are now only holding Objective 6 with the Turvigon. So the Tau have managed to rack up 6 points this turn, bringing the score at the end of turn 4 to 9 points to the Tau, 5 to the Tyranids. And do the Tyranids have enough left to claw this game back? Let's see, going into Tyranids turn 4. Start of Tyranids turn 4, and it seems the hive mind is unwilling to cede control of the centre of the battlefield just yet. The Tyranids have drawn secure Objective 4, but with this brood of gaunts out of synapse range possibly, it's hard to see how they're going to achieve that. They've also drawn overwhelming firepower, which again may prove tricky, and they have retained Kingslayer from their previous turn, having discarded domination. The Morlock should be turning up again, and let's see if he can help the Tyranids achieve these objectives. Going into Tyranids turn 4 movement phase. End of Tyranid turn 4 movement phase, and the Morlock has given the Tyranids a chance to get right back in this game. He burst up underneath this strike team, consuming 8 of them as he thrashed his way up towards the barricades. The remaining 4 Tau could not hold their nerve, and they fell back off the table, but crucially that has cleared the way for the Trigon Prime to charge Commander Rely from behind, and the Tyranids do have Kingslayer as one of their objectives. Meanwhile, the Hive Crone flew over this strike team, killing one with a vector strike and preparing to unload the dual cannon over the rest of them. And as usual, the Zoanthrope and the Biovores are still hiding behind that ridge, looking to fire their spore mines. Can they finally get a hit? We'll see. This brood of gaunts passed their instinctive behaviour check, and they are troops. They have objectives secured. The crisis teams don't, so the Tyranids are currently back in control of Objective 4. And on the Tyranid left flank, the Turvigon is sending this brood of gaunts to bog down the battlesuits, while he attempts to chase down and crush the XV-109. This battle has got very close and personal right in the centre of the table. Let's see what the Tyranids can do to help themselves in their 4th psychic phase. End of Tyranid psychic phase turn 4, and the Turvigon managed to put Catalyst on both himself and the brood of gaunts. He also managed to extend his synapse range with Dominion. But not too many psychic powers are going to be very useful to the Tyranids now that the Hive Tyrant has been shot down. So let's see. They have overwhelming firepower as an objective, but they don't have that many guns. Let's see what they can do in their 4th shooting phase. End of Tyranids turn 4 shooting phase, and with uncanny accuracy the Biovores have managed to land their blast templates right between 2 very close Tau units, but at least 2 spore mines have appeared if no damage was done. The Hive Crone managed to melt another 4 of this strike team with its dual cannon, but the 3 survivors are stubborn. They will not retreat. The Morlock has slithered out of the way of the Trigon Prime as it lines up to charge. Commander Rely It has also zapped him with a bioelectric pulse and managed to do a wound. The Gaunts in the centre did not manage to do any damage to this Crisis team with their flesh borers, but this other brood of Gaunts, in an incredibly effective volley from their flesh borers, managed to kill one Crisis suit and wound another. 3 wounds got through there. The Turvigon did not manage to damage the XV-109 as he lines up for a charge. This battle is finally poised. Let's see what happens in perhaps the most crucial phase of the game, Tyranid Turn 4 Assault Phase. End of Tyranid Assault Phase Turn 4, and the Tau line is holding. The Turvigon took a wound from the phased plasma flamer of the XV-109 on Overwatch and managed to do a wound to the Tau battle suit, but they remain locked. The XV-109 attempted to hit and run, but could not get away from the Turvigon. As these Gaunts charged in to one XV-8 team, they came under fire from the other. They lost 3 to Overwatch. They failed to do any damage to the 2 remaining suits in the centre, and the suits managed to squash a couple of Gaunts in return, but they're in synapse range, they are fearless, and they also remain locked. And the Trygon Prime smashed into Commander Ally, crushing both of his marker drones, but the veteran Tau Commander's shield held firm. He made all 3 of the saves he needed to make, and in return he actually managed to wound the Trygon Prime. Still, he lost the combat, but unsurprisingly passed his morale check. He remains locked. So, at the end of their 4th turn, unfortunately for the Tyranids, they only managed to secure Objective 4, meaning that the score currently stands at 9 points to the Tau, 6 to the Tyranids, going into Tau Turn 5. Start of Tau Turn 5, and although they must be worried about the fate of the XV-109 and their beloved commander, them having both failed their hit and run attempts and being locked in combat with Tyranid monsters, the Tau have decided to try and extend their control over the battlefield. They have drawn secure Objectives 4, yet again in the middle, 2 on the roof of this bunker, and Objective 1 right back where their XV-8 team started. Let's see how they get on. Going into Tau movement phase, turn 5. End of Tau movement phase, turn 5, and the Tau really do have very few units left, and even less that aren't locked in combat. They are going to have to trust to fate to save the 109 and rely, while their units that can move are moving to try to secure the objectives. The Devilfish has pulled back behind these barricades. He is sitting on Objective 3 just in case the Tyranids draw it in their next turn, making life a bit more difficult for them. The other Devilfish and the 3 remaining Fire Warriors may need to add their firepower to drive the Gaunts off Objective 4, allowing this Crisis team to seize it, or they may just deal with the Spore Mines. Meanwhile, the Remora drones have dropped down into hover mode. They have moved towards Objective 2, and if they move flat out, they should be able to secure it. Not much movement going on from the Tau, not much left. Let's see what they can do in their 5th shooting phase. End of Tyranid Turn 5 shooting phase, and the remaining Crisis teams here in the centre have managed to drive all the Gaunts away. They've blown them to pieces, in fact, so they will have no problem in securing Objective 4. Meanwhile, the Remoras have done their flyby reconnaissance of Objective 2, so they are securing that. The 3 remaining Fire Warriors here managed to take down the 2 floating Spore Mines that were causing them some worry. Both Devilfish targeted the Hive Chrome with their smart missiles. They managed to do a couple of wounds, but the Tyranid flying monster made its saves, so remains on 3 wounds. Meanwhile, the 109, Rely and the other Crisis team are still locked in assault. If they can survive this turn, maybe they'll be able to get away, but let's see. Going into Tau, turn 5 assault phase. End of Tau assault phase, turn 5, and the XV-8 team have jet packed up to make sure that they have firm control of Objective 4. Meanwhile, the Tervigon seems to be struggling against the XV-109. He did no damage to the Tau battlesuit and in return took another wound, but the XV-109 has once again failed to hit and run. In the centre, these 8 Gaunts managed to drag down a Crisis battlesuit. The surviving XV-8 did nothing in return, and as he turned to flee, the Gaunts swarmed all over him and dragged him down as well. So very good performance from the Gaunts there. Certainly a lot better than the Trygon Prime. He did no damage at all to Commander Rely, and in return the Tau Commander once again did a wound. So he is aggressive. He has failed to hit and run as well, but we're starting to get the impression that he doesn't want to hit and run. He wants to duke it out with the Trygon to see if he can take it down. All in all, a pretty effective turn from the Tau, given how few assets they have remaining. They have managed to secure Objective 4 in the centre, and they have managed to secure Objective 2 with the Remora stealth drones. They have got 2 points this turn, bringing the score at the end of Tau turn 5 to 11 points to the Tau and 6 to the Tyranids, going into Tyranid turn 5. Start of Tyranid turn 5, and they have kept hold of overwhelming firepower from their previous turn. There are some very small Tau units now that could easily be wiped out in the shooting phase. They have also kept Kingslayer. They are determined that Rely is going to go down, and they have drawn Harness the Warp. They should be able to get a point for that with the Tervigon and the Zone Throat still alive. Let's see what they do in their 5th movement phase. End of Tyranid movement phase turn 5, and if anything it was even shorter than the Tau's last movement phase. The Bivores and the Zone Throat are still sitting behind the raised defence works. The Hive Crone has dropped down into hover mode, and he wants to melt these 3 remaining Fire Warriors to achieve overwhelming firepower. And in the centre, the Morlock and the Gaunts are moving in to help the Trygon against Commander Rely. Maybe between all of them they can finally drag the Tau Commander down and kill him. And the Tervigon, he remains locked against the XV-109 battlesuit. But he can still contribute something, victory points wise, as we go into Tyranid turn 5 Psychic phase. End of Tyranid Psychic phase turn 5, and the Tervigon managed to cast Catalyst on himself and the Morlock. He also managed to cast Dominion, but the Tyranids narrowly failed to achieve D3 for Harness the Warp, as the Zone Throat failed to cast Dominion. So disappointment there for the Tyranids, but at least it's 1 victory point. Let's see if they can get another one in their shooting phase. And our Tyranid shooting phase turn 5, and very, very disappointing. The Hive Crone only managed to kill 2 of the remaining 3 Fire Warriors, even though he used both his dual cannon and a Tentaclid. And even more frustrating, the last Fire Warrior managed to survive the Biovores dropping a Spore Mine Blast on his head as well. So no points for overwhelming firepower there for the Tyranids, but the crucial objective that they are after is Kingslayer. Let's see if they can achieve that in their 5th assault phase. End of Tyranids turn 5 assault phase, and Commander Rely is still standing on a single wound. He really should have gone down under the weight of monstrous creature attacks and the Gaunts. The Gaunts actually managed to do a wound, as did the Morlock, but once again the Trygon Prime failed. Rely did no damage in return, but he has held morale, although there must be something wrong with his vectored thrusters, as he has once again failed to hit and run to safety. The Tervigon and the XV-109 did no damage to each other, and the 109 has finally engaged his vectored thrusters. He has managed to hit and run away from the Tyranid monster. But it's a disappointing turn for the Tyranids. They were denied Kingslayer and Slay the Warlord, meaning they only get a single point for Harness the Warp, and it's even more disappointing as the game has now ended. The Tyranids have managed to get an extra point for Linebreaker, just about, thanks to the Morlock, but the final score at the end of this game is 11 points to the Tau, 8 to the Tyranids. It is a Tau victory, although we are leaving on a cliffhanger. What will become of Commander Rely? There don't seem to be enough Tau forces to extricate him from the very bad situation he finds himself in. Still, they have cleansed most of the Tyranids from the battlefield, and they are arguably in control. This has been a great game, swung back and forth. We really did not know who was going to win, and we can't wait for these two forces to meet again in battle. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 battle reports as we can. See ya!